And, of course, if it's video, you don't get into this mess. But you do have to press the right buttons. Anyway, we thought it might be an idea to pick up some tips from an editor. So I asked Bob Roots, who works with film and video, about the tricks of the trade.
If you didn't edit a program, you would have a jumble of images which would be unrelated. There'd be no plot, there'd be no shape. Therefore, editing is very, very necessary to bring some sort of coherence out of what, first of all, seems chaos. Well, an editor should be very objective, and therefore he can be quite brutal. I mean, the director's been following this program through from inception right up to the time the editor receives it. Often the director with the cameraman have got into incredible situations to get a shot and think it should be in. And the editor can look at it and say, well, I'm very sorry, it's a wonderful shot, but it's actually irrelevant to the program. And therefore, an editor has to bring a very objective eye to it. And he has to be quite brutal sometimes in cutting sequences out. And at other times, he may want to lengthen a sequence that originally the director thought should be shorter, so it can work both ways. But the editor would also have a sense of flow, should be able to see the shape of the program and, with his editing, carry the audience forward through it. And that also brings in a sense of rhythm, which helps the flow of the program. An editor can heighten tension by cutting faster and by building up the cutting steadily so that it should start fairly slow and get faster and faster. That will heighten tension. To cut out boring pieces, if it's someone talking very boringly to camera, you can then overlay what that person's saying with other shots illustrating what he's talking about. You can obviously vary the length of shots again and keep them slightly tighter. That would help it make it less boring. An eye for detail is something an editor definitely needs, particularly if he's cutting drama, when he has to watch continuity very carefully to make sure our hand in the long shot is in the same place in the close-up, and for eye lines, and for expressions generally, because that's what makes drama work. People do seem to shoot more on video. The stock is cheaper on video, so that's probably one reason why they do shoot more. And therefore, one, as an editor, should be far more ruthless on editing video than film, because you do have an awful lot of shots which really you don't need. Basic VHS editing is only straight cuts. You can't put mixes in, you can't put fades in. Therefore, you are restricted to the type of cutting you can do. Some people do say it's more difficult than film. It is different insofar as you can't move the sound out of sync to the picture like you can with film. So that can make it more complicated. However, a good video editor should be cutting the same as a film editor. There should be very little difference really between cutting film and video, except for the mechanical differences. Editing for me is like a jigsaw puzzle. I'm given thousands and thousands of pieces of film, and one has to distill that down to one coherent shape or form, whether it be a drama, a documentary, or whatever. And the enjoyment for me is making all those little pieces down to one and finishing up with something which really you sometimes wonder where it came from. It doesn't seem if it came out of the rushes you were first given. Of course, it did come out of those rushes. But through editing, one has changed things, moved things around, and created something almost different again.
Now, hardened filmmakers who've been doing it for years will probably agree with Bob.